Hello there, it's Maggie, the Cheshire Crafter here. In this video, I'm going to talk about 5 reasons why I like to use recycled fabrics. Let's first of all take a little bit of a look at my stash, just some of it, mind. If you see fabric, do you want to touch it? Do you want to collect it? Do you want to admire it? Do you want to sew with it? Do you want to store up your stash or create with it? This one feels like popping candy. This one's a brocade. This one's super smooth. And this one's got a really interesting broderie anglais within it. Some at the back are linens, some are embroidered. They're clean, they're dry, and they're just gorgeous. And they're mine. Mine. All mine. The first reason is a very popular one, and that's because of environmental factors. Of course, everybody's talking about climate change, and we're talking about reducing the amount of wastage and things that go into landfill. And I like to help that cause. I actually source a lot of my fabrics for quilting by going to charity shops, so the charity shops benefit as well. And now, rather than just giving perhaps a clothing donation to a charity shop, I actually look at that fabric and think, actually, could I cut that apart and make use of that in my sewing? And I've got something that I'm going to be doing in the next few months probably that works from fabrics that I've had stored for at least 2 decades, probably 2.5 decades now, and I can make good use of. I'm not going to go into the benefits of recycling. I think they're pretty obvious to most people, but I think that's probably the most important and the most popular one right now. Now, that also includes the fabrics that people might donate to you to do things like memory quilts. The recycling for that purpose is very beneficial on an emotional level for the recipients. And I think if you were making a memory quilt, it's quite beneficial for you too. It's good for the soul, isn't it? Second reason is because things are available and accessible. I'm very fortunate to live in a suburb of a city in England. And I source, as I said, I source a lot of my fabrics from charity shops. So the fabrics that I choose are likely to be very British in design. Now, I can source them locally, nationally. I always have a look when I go on holiday, what's in the charity shops there. For example, if I was to go to Scotland, I think I might get some very interesting tartan or plaid fabrics there. If I go into Wales, there might be some beautiful Welsh wool. That means that the designs that I make will tend to be or have a look of being very British. And I might deliberately use a British designer like Laura Ashley, Kath Kidson, William Morris. I might choose to do that. And I also like to fly the flag. Oh, can't say that. I also like to fly the flag for British fabric designers. I live in the region of northwest England where Liverpool and Manchester, because of the access to the ports and the shipping canals, we had a lot of cotton mills, most of which have closed down now. So there's a lot of tradition, and especially if you went to the east of the county that I live in, of Cheshire, we've got museums of silk mills in Macclesfield. So there is a great deal of tradition that I like to preserve as well. And that's a really good reason to celebrate those designers and celebrate the fabrics. Now, I could choose to import African prints, Indian brocades, Japanese brocades, Chinese silks. A lot of the fabrics that I use are mostly cotton, but they're not all cotton. So let me come on to my third point then, is the fabrics. And from this, I'm talking about not just cotton. I can quilt and sew any two pieces of fabric together for anything that I choose to be functional and aesthetically pleasing, to be honest. There are no rules. Things like rag rugs, rag quilts were there to keep people warm. So there weren't any rules when they were first conceived of. They were utilitarian to keep people warm. When I was young, we didn't have carpeted floors. We had lino down, which was cold to the touch. And my mum had made a rag rug that I had to the side of the bed so that when I got out of bed in the morning, the first thing that my feet touched and felt was the rag rug. And oh boy, was I glad in it on those cold winter mornings. It's a lovely rug. And it was made from all the crumb pieces of fabric that she ever had. And I make my quilts for people to use, mostly throw size, or there might be cot quilts or baby quilts. I don't make larger quilts than that because I'm just doing them on a domestic sewing machine and I can't make any bigger than that. But the fabrics that I choose depend on what's available then. Mostly the cottons that you see and I've just shown you, or I'm going to interject here, are cottons or linens. Some might be embroidered, but the pattern, design, colour and texture are all factors for me choosing that fabric. And I might be looking to look at complementary colours, contrasting colours, colour themes, colour patterns and designs in a quilt that I'm wanting to make. That baseline of fabric then can then be enhanced. I might add hessian or a lace to it or embellish it with buttons. It's all fabric at the end of the day, isn't it? Whether it's wood, a wooden button. I used a wooden button to enhance the quilt recently, or a bit of cotton lace or a bit of satin ribbon. It's all fabric. And I love fabric. Now that brings me to my fourth reason. It means that because of the stash of fabric that I've now got, it's unique. So that's my unique selling point. My USP is that my quilts are unique and sometimes unrepeatable. If you gave a different person in a different part of the world, or even my neighbour, if you gave them the same pieces of fabric and said, just make something with that, they would come up with a different design and a different quilt. If I had the same fabric and tried to repeat it in the same design that I wanted to, I probably wouldn't ever be able to repeat that design in those fabrics, which makes them a one-off. And that, if you're looking to sell your quilts, is a unique selling point. When I gift my quilts, I know that the recipient isn't going to have one of the quilts already, and they're never going to get another one like it again in the future. And my fifth reason then is cost related. I've built up my stash of fabrics over the decades, and I budget to see how much can I afford to spend this week. How much is it going to cost me to buy the cotton or the wadding or the backing or the trim to complete this quilt? And cost is a factor for me. But I own all that fabric. I've already paid for it, and I haven't bought it on a credit card. So I don't owe any money for it for the future. But by recycling existing fabrics or existing items that I have, helps me keep the cost down. And often those men's shirts or ladies' blouses or dresses or skirts or pyjamas or whatever I buy at the charity shop, I'm getting fabric at a lot less than it would cost me to buy designer fabric in a kit, for example. And I also get given gifts every now and again. I like gifts, don't you? But mainly I need to keep the cost down. And that's a factor for me. I thought of a sixth reason, so I'm changing the title. Here are 6 reasons why I love to sew with recycled fabrics. Is that I believe that quilts can evoke an emotional response. Now that might be, we've mentioned memory quilts already, but that might be from a piece of fabric that was vintage or antique. It might have come from your grandmother. You might have bought it at an antiques or a vintage fair, or it might have come out of your wardrobe or somebody else's wardrobe. Or it might just remind you of something or of somebody. And I don't think it's possible to put a price on that. When I give my quilts as a gift, I write in the card that accompanies them that I'd like it to become an heirloom. I would like it to be passed on to another family member or a person of their choice. And that's recycling, isn't it? So there are 6 reasons for using recycled fabrics and why I love to use recycled fabrics. So I'm interested to know, why do you enjoy sewing with recycled fabrics? What gives you a kick? Let me know in the comments below, won't you? For now, I'm going back to my sewing. So this is Maggie, the Cheshire Crafter. Come back and see me soon for more crafting, won't you? Bye.